Hello, Los Angeles, and welcome back to another episode of Defenders of the Bank. It's been quite some time since I got to sit in the host's chair for this pod, and well, for those of you who may have forgotten who I am, my name's Christian Filliman, once known as the platinum-haired flamingo, but for now, I'm just going to stick with Philly. Nothing fun about my hair these days. Kind of boring, but I guess I'm glad that I still have some. There will be nobody joining me on this pod today. Chris Lafferty had to work a little late, so it's just yours truly. Good evening, all. Hello, Ruben. Hello, DeCougar. And there will be no Scarf on the show tonight. And that may come as a surprise to many of you, as Scarf's really been holding down the fort while I've been out and about doing what I've been doing. But we are in mid-May, and I did say months ago that I will be coming back right around this time in mid-May. So I'm a man of my word, and since we love to quote and steal lines from professional wrestling, I can start the show off today by saying, finally, Philly is back on Defenders. But I never actually finished my thought about Scarf. There we go. That's the fun part about rambling by yourself. He's in Atlanta with his students. No big story. And he might actually be heading on over to see the Montgomery Biscuits. So that's kind of cool. He bought me a hat last time. Montgomery Biscuits, a minor league team. It's got a really cool logo for you graphic designers out there. It's pretty darn cool. All right. Since I'm flying solo today, my aim is to inform and entertain you. No rambling. No lengthy monologues, just straight business defenders, all right? Know this day in LAFC history, because that's a Scarf segment, and quite honestly, he's got the entire encyclopedia of that stuff anyway. No banter, because it's just me, myself, and I was looking for Hello Kitty. I really was. That's the weirdest thing that ever happened, man. The roadcaster just completely reset on me. That is so freaking odd. All right, defenders, if you're having a tough time hearing me, let me know. I'm just going to check the settings real quick. I've never had the roadcaster just all of a sudden reset on me. Bear with me just 1 second. All right, cool. All that's up. That's up. Damn, that's odd. All right. So know this day in LAFC history, and I was going to bring me, myself, I, and Hello Kitty. But Hello Kitty, I can't find her. She's somewhere in this mess I have called a studio. So we won't be seeing her unless she just miraculously shows up out of nowhere. But there are some news and notes, defenders. The part of our history post was displayed on LAFC's socials earlier this afternoon. Kai Kamara is done, but not with his MLS story, just his LAFC story. In the time that he spent with the Black and Gold, participated in 30 matches, 3 goals, and 5 assists. And this is for a man whose age is on the 4th floor. I am not that much older than Kai Kamara. It's incredible what this man has done through the entirety of his professional career. And that story continues. As he is now going to the land of Skyline Chili, Cincinnati. So we wish him all the best in his journey. Still has quite a hill to climb if he wants to finish number 1 and catch up to Chris Wondolowski. But it was pretty cool that when he jumped above Landon Donovan, he did it in an LAFC kit. And one thing I am very proud of, personally, defenders, is I actually got to ask him the first question in the press conference, like that day after he broke the record. Not broke the record, but hit up second place. So I thought that was kind of cool. Cheers to Kai Kamara. Now, speaking of SC Cincinnati, there's been rumors about a certain German player from Bayern Munich. And the reason why I mention FC Cincinnati is because they own his discovery rights. It's this weird monopoly rule that Major League Soccer has where they basically go, any team can basically go, I got dibs. I got dibs on this guy. I got dibs on that guy. And we never did any of those wham, gam, tam, thank you, man pods. We should do that. There's a lot of things that haven't been done on Defenders this year. We didn't do our kit reveals and the previews and what we thought. Maybe we still could because that's a good show worth having. But now that I'm back full time, a lot of stuff is going to happen on the show. A lot more posts on social media. And again, I take that as my responsibility, folks. since doing all the broadcasting, I haven't had as much time to give to defenders. But here I am. Y'all got me for the rest of the season. So going back to Thomas Müller, there have been rumors circling around. And like I said, FC Cincinnati has his discovery rights. But he's already turned down a contract there. So doesn't look like Thomas Müller will be heading there. Now, the second thing I want to say is congratulations to him. What a career and what a way to go out. Bayern wins their 34th Meisterschale, and this man goes down as one of the most decorated players in Deutsche Fußball history. He's also a World Cup winner. Now, the German in me, the Bayern fan in me, the younger version of me would welcome this move happily. I always wanted a high-profile German on LAFC, but truthfully, defenders, I don't want this. No way. Not for LAFC, not for Thomas, not for his legacy. The high-profile Germans that have come into this league have been, as they say auf Deutsch, Scheiße. I'll let y'all look that one up. Bastian Schweinsteiger was a mere shadow of himself when he went over to the Chicago Fire. He wasn't that great. Marco Reus chose the wrong team in LA, or at least the team within this part of LA. But I'm happy he didn't come here either. This man was injury prone over a decade ago. So Thomas Müller, in my opinion, would not be the help that we need. If we want to play that attractive, fast-paced, attacking brand of football, I don't think he's part of that. We can't be the team that brings in 2 failed World Cup winning players here at LAFC. Currently, we only have one, folks, and I don't need to tell you who that is. I don't even like speaking the man's name because it sickens me with how awful he has been at LAFC. But the other one who is here that is a World Cup winner has been successful, and that, of course, is Hugo Lloris. The best keeper we've had, dare I say, talent-wise and skill-wise. And I love Maxime Crepeau, but Hugo Lloris was a much better keeper. Heck, he even has 2 assists in his LAFC career. So I'm definitely nay on Thomas Müller, defenders. If y'all have anything to say in the chat, we could address this because, it could be a fun conversation to have. Definitely one I'm going to have with Chris Lafferty. Definitely one that I'm going to have when Scarf comes back. Yeah, I don't think Yamal is going to be coming here anytime soon, but I don't know if anybody's called dibs on his discovery rights. So as a representative of LAFC and the Black and Gold from the podcasting fam, I declare dibs on Barcelona's young stud. What a fine talent that kid is. Now, Thomas Müller, just to kind of cap it all off, look, 43 matches, 6 goals, 6 assists this season. Slowly each season, the output has been decreasing as the age has been increasing. But what a career. All right, so that takes care of the banter amongst myself and really nobody else here in this room. Know this day in LAFC history. So we're about 9 minutes into this pod. Let's get down to it. I'm just taking a look at reading everything that we have in the chat here. Defenders, I will make sure to address this, but as you know, I'm one of those guys that's like, gets into a conversation, gets into a good idea, and then goes, oh, squirrel. Got to try to keep myself on track with this one so I don't waste your time, which is important, and my time, which I don't really have too much of. All right, so now I know I've been gone for a little bit, and of course, I'm still paying attention to the world of the Black and Gold, but what damn warp zone did I fall into? We're living in a world where the Whitecaps are not only on top of the Western Conference, but number 1 in the race to the Supporter Shield. In addition, on June 1st, the Canadian Colossus that is now known as the Whitecaps are heading to Mexico City to take on Cruz Azul in the CONCACAF Champions Cup. Interesting times we are living in, defenders. Absolutely interesting. We're unbeaten, though, in our last 5, speaking of the times. And while some of you may think that last night's result was negative, I don't think so. A negative would be, and a fact, actually, a really tragic plane wreck of a fact would be going winless in 12 and having a team from Jersey score a touchdown on you. Well, we won't be talking much about those guys. They have their own problems. If you do want to listen to a cool interview about those guys, the Cooligans just did an interview with Will Kuntz, although I think it was before the game that they had against the New Jersey Energy Drinks. But if you care for like that kind of banter, talking about the team down the 110, make sure you tune into Soccer in 60 this week because we've got a really, really big guest that's coming on that has ties to LAFC. I'm not going to tell you who. I'm not going to give you any clues, but he played at LAFC. I'll leave it at that. All right. So let's set the stage. 24 meetings with the Vancouver Whitecaps since 2018. 13 wins for LAFC, 6 wins for Vancouver, 5 draws. LAFC has dominated Vancouver in tournament play as well. 12 times over the past couple of seasons we've seen them. And we've seen them so many times that the mere sound of Whitecaps is going to make most of us cringe. But that was the Vanni Sartini days. And as much as I'll miss the most memeable manager in Major League Soccer, his replacement, Jesper Sorensen, has this team playing at such a high level. They are pretty darn good. They are number 2 in goals scored in this league, just 2 behind San Jose. They are number 1 in Major League Soccer in assists. They are number 1 in expected goals. They are now 5-1-1 at home, whereas LAFC on the road, not great. 1-3-2 after this weekend. But since the loss to Miami, LAFC has been all right, unbeaten in 4. And before I go on, I'm going to give myself a moment here to shout out the sponsor that I wish we had on our show, Topo Chico. Topo Chico, you power me through these podcasts and through life for that matter. All right. And now, after the game against Vancouver, our unbeaten streak extends to 5. And I got to be honest with you, defenders, I have fallen out of love with the idea of recapping games in the way we have done in the past. Not sure how many of you feel that way, and I would love to hear that in the chat. If you like the way we've been recapping the games, if you want us to switch. Unbelievable. I don't know. There's power outages going on here. I know Burbank Water and Power have been receiving my my payments. So sorry about that, defenders. I do humbly apologize. All right. Where were we? We were talking about the Vancouver Whitecaps. Now, had to take that sip of Topo Chico. Stupid freaking roadcaster. All right. Now, I've fallen out of love with the idea of recapping games. Defenders, I'd love to hear what you have to say about that. I've been talking to Scarf about this for quite some time. You're right, Ruben. Take 3. Hopefully, there aren't going to be any more takes. Third time's a charm, as they say. So looking at Vancouver's starters for this one. Pedro Vite sticks out. Talented player. As does Brian White, who, in my opinion, is one of the best in this league at his position. Tristan Blackman has been playing out of his mind this season for Vancouver, and quite honestly, he's having one of his greatest seasons in Major League Soccer ever since getting drafted by LAFC from the University of Pacific. And their keeper, Yohei Takaoka, looking solid and steady between the sticks. The big omission, and when he returns, Vancouver's going to be killing people, is Ryan Gold. He comes back. This team is going to be a terror. He's been out since March the 7th with a knee injury, and he's expected to come back at some point this month, potentially before the Cup final versus Cruz Azul. And they are going to need him if the Canadians are going into Mexico City expecting a win. Now, okay, Cougar, you ask in the chat if we were liking the format. The minute-by-minute format going over the game in the past. The question is whether y'all enjoy it that way. Personally, I just want to talk about the highlights, the key moments, and then obviously just have a dialogue about the feels and opinions. That's preferable. That's more or less what I would like to do, as opposed to going through the full 90 minutes and just kind of giving each take. I've grown kind of tired of that. So I would love to hear your feedback. All right, so let's get into this, defenders. The starters for the Whitecaps, Takaoka in between the sticks. Ocampo, who honestly had a mierda style of a game. Tristan Blackman, Renko Veselinovic, and Johnson in the back line. Baby Berhalter, Sebastian, Kubas, and Ngando in the midfield. Pedro Vite, Brian White, and Nelson up top. For LAFC, since we're talking about up top, let's start there. Denis Bouanga, Nathan Ordaz, and David Martinez start in the game. In the midfield, Marky Delgado, Igor Jesus, and Timothy Tillman. The back line, Ryan Hollingshead, Eddie Segura, Aaron Long, Sergi Palencia, and in between the sticks, Hugo Lloris. All right, 12 times in 2 seasons, defenders, we're squaring off against the Vancouver Whitecaps. But this is the first time in 25. Let me put this up here. Highlight and key moments is good, but high-profile games, need a deeper dive. All right, I can dig that. So what you're telling me, Ruben, is when we beat the crap out of Carson here in a few days, you're going to want us to go deeper into that. But then when we also destroy Montreal, you're not going to want to hear about that as much. I just want to make sure we're on the same page. I think we are. All right. So 3 minutes into the game, LAFC coming out hot. Denny Bowanga obliterated Ocampo on his run into the box. He gets denied by Takaoka. Then Igor Jesus, with space and time to kill, lets one loose, but Takaoka once again gets his mittens on the attempt. That's a pretty strong start as far as LAFC is concerned. Now, in the 8th minute, Sergi Palencia, with one hell of a throw into the box, sets the stage for what eventually would be LAFC's first goal. Hang on a second. I got a burp on deck. This is the challenge in having to do this solo. I get parched and I get burpy. And, well, shout out again to Topo Chico. Now, the throw-in from Palencia comes in between Ryan Hollingshead, Brian White, and Ranko Veselinovic. The ball ends up getting moved to Eddie Segura, who was so close with his header, but Takaoka just a little bit quicker. But there's nobody around to clean up the garbage for Vancouver. And Marky Delgado viciously eviscerates the ball into the net. LAFC up 1-0. Strong start. Now, it didn't just end there. 17 minutes in, Denny passes to Ryan Hollingshead, who gets taken out by Ocampo. Not a good day for the young Colombian defender. No question about that call. That was as clear as day. Nobody complaining about anything. And who else gets to position themselves 11 meters or 12 yards for glory? Denny Bowanga. And in the 19th minute, Denny does what Denny does, and that's score goals going to the right of Takaoka, to the left on your screen. Now, 2-0 in favor of LAFC. Now, the Whitecaps of the past under Vanni Sartini would have probably just crumbled at this point. But no. Not this team. This is a different team than the one that LAFC has been dominating since 2018. And speaking of which, Mark Dos Santos, former coach of the Vancouver Whitecaps, didn't make that connection right there. But I have to go back and see how Dos Santos fared against LAFC. I didn't even bother taking that into the equation. But anyway, there you go. There's the Philly going after the squirrel thing. All right. Now, set piece defending, I should say, not a strong point for LAFC, and certainly not at BC Place, Bad Carpet Place. Because in the 26th minute, off of a free kick somewhere in Saskatchewan, baby Berhalter, his name is Sebastian, served up a beautiful bowl of poutine for Brian White, and he gets it into the back of the net. Vancouver cuts the lead in half as the Labatt's and the Molson rain down from the heavens. Could I be any more Canadian defenders? Sure I can. I love Tim Hortons, Canada's greatest export aside from hockey, Rush, and Bryan Adams. Now, a heck of a dish from Sebastian. Now the warm and fuzzies that we are all feeling are turning into the uh-ohs. Now, not sure about y'all, but I most definitely did not feel confident anymore. In my cranium, my brain was firing on all cylinders. Not sure if we are all wired to be pessimistic, but I didn't think that we were going to hang on to this lead. Not with such a quick answer in the 26th minute. Dave Gomez in the chat, representing Amsterdam. I got to say, got to head out there and visit you, buddy. My good friend Chad is out there as well. Ruben, all right, I got to put that up on the chat. Mark Dos Santos secured one victory against LAFC during his tenure as head coach. Also, ChatGPT. I love it. ChatGPT is what a heck of a resource. I was chatting with my wife Panda earlier today, and she made the comment about horse pucky. Well, I thought, let me see what kind of graphic ChatGPT can come up with for a horse playing ice hockey. And if y'all DM me, and remind me, I'll make that post. It's quite funny. All right, so back to it. Wired to be pessimistic. They get the 2-1 after the Brian White goal, which would be his first to 2. Brian White practically put on his Air Jordans and skied high. Nobody was there to deny him, in particular, not Hugo Lloris. Now, as the half is closing out, Ranko Veselinovic almost had a header from Sebastian Berhalter. Wait, I don't know. Actually, I have to remember if that was from Berhalter. But either way, Veselinovic had a header as the half was drawing towards an end that just didn't have enough mustard on it. So set piece defending from LAFC, yeesh. We head into the half having taken 5 shots, 4 on target. Vancouver, 4 shots with 3 on target. We had 3 big chances. They had 1. We were very, very accurate with passing, and they were only slightly more accurate than us. We were a little chippier than they were in terms of the fouls, and they had more set pieces off the corners. Pardon me 1 second. Topo Chico. Good God. I don't know why it's so. I could broadcast a baseball game for 3 hours and not run out of things to say or not get hoarse. But when I'm doing a Defenders of the Bank podcast, I am. Maybe it's something in the air. All right. So 70th minute, almost 69th. We almost had ourselves a giggity goal. Ocampo, who at this point had been playing, and what's a nice way of saying this on a family-friendly show? Been playing like mierda or scheisse. And yeah, we'll go with that. He gets away with murdering a man who was born in Sacramento. And I mean Ryan Hollingshead. He takes out Ryan Hollingshead. And no foul. No review. Play should have been stopped, but pro officiating, it's got to be pro officiating. So play resumes. Sabi, who subbed in within the second half, floats one into the box. Igor Jesus craniums it over to Ali Ahmed, who domes it to Brian White for his brace. The most dangerous man in a white kit has the time and the space to head it past Lloris. Now, I've been saying this for years. Brian White is freaking great. A proven goal scorer, and he's often overlooked because he plays in Vancouver. But man, can that kid score goals? 2 against LAFC, and he's tied for first in the Golden Boot race with 8. No question about it, defenders. This kid is great. Now, in the 90th, we get so freaking close to playing party spoiler. Denny in the box, nearly connects with Under. Ball comes into Jeremy Abobasi, who has the ball at his feet and takes a crack at it, but Takaoka deflects it out for a corner. Another opportunity, and I think it was from Under, and Takaoka got his hands on it again, and that's how it's going to end, folks. 2-2. We scored 2 early goals. We concede 1 to Brian White in the first half. We concede a second to Brian White with 20 minutes remaining in regulation. And that's how it all ends. For a neutral, a very entertaining Sunday night match. LAFC would end up finishing with 12 shots, 6 of them on target. Vancouver with 11 shots, 5 of them on target. So a very entertaining game. At the conclusion of it, we now sit in 6th place. After 12 games played, we have 5 wins, 3 draws, 4 losses, 19 goals for, 18 against, and we are 9 points out of first in the West. Vancouver still in first, not only in the West, but in the Supporters' Shield as well. And Dave Gomez in the chat says, we left 2 points up there. And I would agree. So now that we've recapped this, let's talk about the feels. This was a hard-fought game. We didn't do a great job with set-piece defending. Luckily, that Veselinovic didn't have enough behind his header to close out the first half. Because if we go into the locker room tied at 2, we absolutely lose this game. We left the door open. We had people in Vancouver ripping and roaring and yelling because we left the door open for their Whitecaps team to kick through it. And by the way, pretty good crowd there. Having a team in Canada as successful right now as Vancouver is exciting because Lord knows good football hasn't been seen in Montreal in quite some time. And you want to talk about a tragedy? Well, the Galaxy, definitely the worst tragedy that Major League Soccer has seen. But Montreal, that's going to be a fun little race to the wooden spoon. Now, while, yes, we got screwed by the no call on Ocampo because he did foul Ryan Hollingshead. No question about that. But we really should have won that game. We would have made such a nice statement. We dropped 2 points on the road. Now, Vancouver's a good team. I've said it. They've got good players. Clearly, their new coach has these guys playing incredibly well. But it would have been far better for the team's confidence and far better for our record and far better for our points and far better for everything, all of us, supporters included, had we gotten in there to beat the team that currently holds the top spot in Major League Soccer. This was a game that we absolutely shot ourselves in the foot with because we should have won this game. I am in full belief that we should have won this game. We let Vancouver in. We gave them the confidence, and they're just not the same Vancouver that we once knew. So that's the story. We're going to also need to improve upon not only set piece defending, but our record on the road. LAFC is not a good team on the road, and we're going to have to secure some better results on the road if we're going to look to improve within our positioning in the league and obviously heading towards the postseason. I think the only team that we have beaten on the road is Sporting Kansas City. That's it. Might as well start playing the Crickets because that's it. Sure, a couple of draws, but one win on the road. I think 1-3-2, the record on the road. It's not great. Fortunately, we're pretty good at home. So, that's the case right there. So we've got an incredibly long week of football to be happening, defenders. This is a good week because, okay, so here's a question. Thoughts on the LAFC Club World Cup qualifiers? I'm looking forward to them. This is a really huge opportunity for LAFC in so many ways. The $10 million game, if you look for at the total profit that we've made over some of the recent sales that we've had with players, even that doesn't equate to the amount of money that LAFC can make if we can beat Club America on the 31st and make it to the FIFA Club World Cup. I mean, I know there's Chelsea fans in our supporters base that would love to have the opportunity to see LAFC go up against Chelsea. Same thing could be said about Flamengo, the third team that is that would be in that group. If there is a fan of that club here at LAFC, please DM me and let's have a conversation because I know a ton about world football. I don't know anything about this team, but the other team. But to have the opportunity to go up against a Chelsea and a Flamengo, that's pretty darn cool. And we've had success with Club America in the past. I mean, yes, we've had a few friendlies with them. Most recently, obviously, the one starting things off this season at BMO, then the one at SoFi. But, I mean, the successful one that we had, obviously, is in the CONCACAF Champions. Back then, it was called League Semifinal that we ended up winning. And I'll still hold on to this idea. Had Edward Atuesta not been baited in the way that he was by Memo Ochoa, he doesn't get the red card. We have Edward Atuesta in the midfield for LAFC. At that time, he was playing lights out for us. And we would have defeated Tigres in that game, and we would have hoisted our Champions League trophy. But alas, it didn't happen. But this game, arguably more important than all of that because the money and the exposure is just so freaking massive. And all we got to do is beat arguably the most successful team in the history of Mexico. Club America is not going to be an easy one. With that kind of money on the line, this is going to be a fierce contest, a very exciting one. One that's going to be must-see TV and could go down as one of the most important games in LAFC history. If we want those big players, those big signings, we need money. And we have money, and Lord knows, we all spend a lot of money on season tickets, on concessions, on stuff at the store. Parking lot is not owned by LAFC, so we don't set those prices. Just want to throw that out there because, yeah, I know the parking has been kind of atrocious. And after having gone to win a game at Angel Stadium a couple weeks ago where I only had to pay $20 parking, I thought, man, that's pretty good. But then again, you go to Angel Stadium and you don't watch great baseball from the home team, but it's a great fan experience. I don't want that out of LAFC. I want to win games, damn it. And so forget that aspect of things. We need to win games. So the unfortunate thing is things are going to be expensive and continue to get expensive. But yes, I'm looking forward to this game against Club America. I do think that LAFC is going to turn out on this one. It's going to be a big one and a good one. All right. Now, before I go on, do we have any other questions or any other comments in the chat to address? I haven't gone to the Instagram. Where have we seen? Let's see if there's any comments in there. The Foosball Bros tuned in. Hello. All right. So with 9.55 million on the line, and obviously within the group stage, maybe getting out of the group stage, so much more money on the line. So we've addressed the CONCACAF Champions Cup. Not the cup, the FIFA Club World Cup. Yes, we addressed CONCACAF Champions Cup weeks ago when Miami absolutely dashed our dreams. We talked about it, of course, with Vancouver because they're going to have a good game or an interesting game against Cruz Azul. Now, this week is a long one in terms of LAFC because tomorrow we'll be back here to give you an episode of One More Sleep. And then Wednesday, we got ourselves a game, which means you got yourselves a podcast the day after. So that's going to be me and Chris Lafferty doing One More Sleep tomorrow. And then we are going to recap the game on Wednesday, on Thursday. And then we've got another One More Sleep on Saturday because, we've got a pretty darn big game ahead of us on the weekend. And with that, you will probably get the full starting lineup of this Defenders of the Bank roster that we've put together for y'all. So I'm not going to take up too much more of your time. We'll be seeing each other tomorrow for One More Sleep. Soccer in 60, make sure you tune into that this week. There's going to be some posts about it. We got a great guest on there. Defenders, I kind of threw out a clue throughout this podcast, I should say. See if you can find it and see if you can figure out who the guest is going to be. I know for a fact I alluded and gave you all a clue. There's an Easter egg somewhere within the 30 minutes of this pod. So let's see if y'all can find it. If so, DM us or heck, chat at us, whatever it is. So again, we will be back tomorrow. And since it's been a while since I've been on, there used to be a saying I had in 2023 that I didn't get a chance to really speak more of after we lost to the Columbus Crew. But since we won U.S. Open Cup last year, I figured out, hey, Tristan Blackman in the chat goes, hey, Scarf, how was the UCR season? How would Scarf know, man? It was Philly the one who broadcasted all season long. Yeah, that's fair. Phil, I forgot you were still a host. Yeah, I addressed that earlier in the pod, Tristan Blackman. I also said that you were having a fantastic season, the best one that you've had since joining MLS. And, you've been doing quite well for yourself since you came over from the University of the Pacific. So, yeah, the UCR season for baseball, well, it just ended. All right. Clearly, the roadcaster is telling me that we need to go. But before I go, I'm going to remind you all of a saying I once had back in the day. LAFC, baby, because we are the trailblazing MLS and Open Cup raising, always competing, 5 games unbeaten, goal scoring, rip roaring, styling and smiling, black and gold wearing, hate on us because you can't stop swearing, team on the rise, with a few lows and picking up on the highs. That's right, Defenders. I'll be spitting that out throughout the entirety of this season. And know this, particularly you, Tristan Blackman, since you mentioned it. I'm back. For better or for worse, I am back on the show full-time. No conflicts, although there is one in June. I'll tell you all about that one later. This is a big conflict for yours truly, and truly an awesome opportunity. But until then, you got Philly for the rest of the season. You'll have the scarf. Lafferty will be on the show. I'll somehow find where the hell Hello Kitty is. But for the time being, just want to say thank you for tuning in to episode 359. One More Sleep tomorrow, followed by episode 360 on Thursday. And yes, I agree. Greater than AV Alta. And until then, Defenders, just want to say thank you so much for tuning in. Short episode because, well, I like to get down to business and there's not too much bantering to be done. So we'll see each other tomorrow night, 9:30. That's what time we're going on, 9:30 tomorrow to give you another episode of One More Sleep. Till then, we shall see you. Another beloved, Philly out.